Let's start with how many of you actually using WhatsApp?
Our goal when we started was to be on every single smartphone in the world.
Over 100 billion messages are sent through WhatsApp every single day. That's more messages than there are books in the world.
So what is this?
It's a messaging app that is incredibly popular. They send billions of messages a day.
It basically allows you to text, send photos, voicemails, videos to anybody in the world with your mobile device for free.
And that allows you to avoid paying those big phone charges. This is a company that's growing so fast.
WhatsApp isn't just any messaging app. It's the largest in the world.
In countries like India, WhatsApp is the default messaging app.
If there is an application that most of us use on a daily basis, it's WhatsApp.
But here's the thing. Despite the billions of messages, if you ask around your everyday person how WhatsApp makes money, they wouldn't have a clue. Still, the app has nearly 3 billion users and is worth over $100 billion. In fact, the two guys who founded the company sold it in just 5 years for a whopping
$19 billion in cash and stock.
Why did you do it and what does it mean?
Already, almost 500 million people love using WhatsApp for messaging.
But if you use WhatsApp, you'll notice something interesting. They don't charge you for using the app, and unlike Facebook and Instagram, they don't display any third-party ads.
This is a company that is very focused on privacy.
The WhatsApp founders always believed that there shouldn't be any collection of data for advertising.
This raises a big question. How do they make money?
Don't think you're the customer. You are the product.
But what happens when a small idea becomes a global phenomenon? You see, WhatsApp's story is one of rapid growth and massive success, but also of a shocking betrayal that led the founders to leave the company they started.
WhatsApp co-founder Ann Combe is leaving the company after clashing with its parent Facebook over data privacy.
That's months after Brian Acton, the other co-founder, said he would leave and actually used a delete Facebook hashtag.
Facebook shared your private information with more than 150 other companies.
Cambridge Analytica gained access to the data of 87 million users.
Facebook mishandled the data of around 50 million users.
The data is allegedly available for sale on the dark web.
I started Facebook, I run it, and at the end of the day, I'm responsible for what happens here. And I'm really sorry that this happened.
But the nagging question at the moment is this: can the social networking website be trusted with personal information?
Back in 2009, two former Yahoo employees, Ann Combe and Brian Acton, had a brilliant idea. An idea to bring people closer regardless of distance. That idea materialized into what we know today as WhatsApp. This all started when Apple released their new iPhone back in 2009. Yan noticed that the newly invented App Store, which was only a few months old at that point, was about to spawn a whole new industry of apps. That was when he decided to build WhatsApp.
If you're not familiar with the app, well, let me show it to you. This is what it looks like right here. It's pretty straightforward.
This is a way to send text messages and photos and streams through the internet, and that allows you to avoid paying those big phone charges.
While today WhatsApp is a full-fledged messaging app, that wasn't the original idea.
The original idea was this functionality of a status. The idea was that before you start a phone call or before you send a message, you would check the status of this person from WhatsApp, and they would say, "Oh, I'm available," and you would call them.
However, the journey of WhatsApp almost ended before it even began, because when the prototype was first given out to people for testing, it got really bad feedbacks.
It failed horribly. Like, it was a disaster. It was depressing.
They said the app didn't offer much, it drained their batteries and had frequent bugs and crashes. Disappointed with the feedback, Yan decided to throw in the towel and abandon WhatsApp before it even went live. But thankfully, they received a breakthrough.
So when Apple introduced push notifications, we quickly kind of plugged it into the app.
All of a sudden, receiving a notification whenever one of their friends updated their status somehow made it fun. Yan took notice of this and changed WhatsApp to ping users whenever they received a message. And that was when WhatsApp became the full-fledged messaging service that it is today. And soon afterwards, people began to use WhatsApp to communicate with their friends and families in place of SMS. As a result, the app started to gain a larger user base, and it quickly became apparent that the demand for an instant messaging application was there.
Why is this better than texting?
Even if you only have a 1 or 2 gigabyte data plan, sending hundreds of messages in WhatsApp is not going to eat big into that plan.
So Jan spent most of his 2009 writing the back-end code for WhatsApp and adjusting it for the nuances of international dialing preferences. WhatsApp was loved by many right from the start due to its sleek design and worldwide appeal. It became a must-have on phones everywhere because it kept chat super secure and private. By early 2011, WhatsApp was one of the top 20 apps in the US Apple App Store. But now the small group of WhatsApp founders and employees had limited funds and needed to generate revenue. But you see, Jan and Brian are not really like what you'd expect from Silicon Valley type people. They are privacy activists, which means they prioritize user privacy and detest any sort of monetization that involves mining user data and advertisements.
Putting advertising on something so personal that is your phone, and putting advertising in a way of people trying to communicate and wanting to stay in touch and messaging each other would be just so, in our mind, wrong.
In fact, one of the reasons why the pair left their previous jobs at Yahoo was because of Yahoo's extensive use of advertisements. This is why when they were building WhatsApp, they decided to put a strong end-to-end encryption that not even WhatsApp could read the messages of its own users. You see, Jan was raised during the communist regime, while living simply meant a life without privacy. Almost everything you do was eavesdropped on, recorded and snitched. This deeply influenced his strong commitment to privacy. He remembered how communication with his family was difficult when he was growing up.
I remember my parents not being able to have a conversation on the phone. My mom would often say, "This is not a phone conversation, I'll tell you in person."
So they decided to create an app influenced by his own personal experiences. They wanted their app to be an easy-to-use cross-platform messaging app that will make phone calls and texts more accessible to families and friends. And although the app showed promising signs of growth right from the early stages, it wasn't cheap to run. For example, the cost of SMS verification alone cost the business thousands of dollars per month. Initially, they were using the seed fundings they had received from their investors to run the business. And for a while, this was going well. But as more and more people kept downloading the app, they found themselves needing to generate revenue to hire more staffs and invest in servers. So now they had to come up with a solution. Social media companies basically make money from one of 3 ways. They could either sell your data, display third-party ads, or in-app purchases. At least these are the major ways. But since they detest data mining and advertisement and basically want to keep the app free for all users, the only option they had was to make a little compromise. They transitioned the app from a free download model to a one-off charge at $1.
It's free for the first year, but then at 1 year in, they charge each user $1.
But even this $1 fee was not made compulsory. It was more like a donation to the company. Besides, the $1 subscription fee seemed worth it to many people since they wouldn't have to deal with any of these. Shortly after making WhatsApp a paid app, the feature to send photos was added and sales continued to rocket. But for a while, they actually ran the business without any actual revenue. Jan and Brian themselves were reluctant to take on new investors because they were afraid that the new investors would try to push on heavier monetization tactics. WhatsApp was really the opposite of what the typical Silicon Valley startup looks like. They were serious about doing things their way, no advertising at all. The founders wanted WhatsApp to be used for phone excitement and communication, not as a way of pushing ads on their users. So the main monetization strategy for WhatsApp became getting money from the investors rather than their users and making the app the best it can be, which will then bring in more users and more investors. One of which was Sequoia Capital, which proposed to become a strategic advisor to the enterprise with an $8 million investment for 15% of the company, promising that advertisements would not be on their agenda. The WhatsApp team agreed and accepted the offer. They realized that by purely focusing on improving the user experience and not bombarding the app with ads or too much monetization tactics, they could get even more users. And that worked fairly well because by February of 2013, WhatsApp had a phenomenal 200 million users around the world, while having only 50 staff members. What's more was that at that point, WhatsApp had a valuation of $1.5 billion. On the 19th of February 2014, just 1 year after a venture capital valuation at $1.5 billion, Facebook announced that it was acquiring WhatsApp for $19 billion. Note that WhatsApp was only 5 years old at that point. And for comparison, Instagram was bought for only $1 billion. This move stunned the financial world, with many questioning why Facebook will pay so much for a company making just a few $1 million in annual revenue.
Obviously, this is worth a hell of a lot of money.
The subscription fee in the second year is $1. How can this company be worth $19 billion?
It's not the $19 billion that I'm looking at, it's the
450 million people currently use WhatsApp, and it's growing rapidly.
Despite the numbers, it's still a pretty incredible price to pay for a company that's just a few years old.
I actually just think that by itself it's worth more than $19 billion.
You see, tech companies work in a very unusual way. You don't have to be making a lot of money to be worth a lot of money, as long as you have a lot of users. When asked, Zuckerberg said that using an analytical focus, Facebook found that WhatsApp was going to be their main competitor for mobile communications, especially as WhatsApp was already outstripping Facebook Messenger by users and engagement rate. So Zuckerberg basically did what he did with Instagram. He bought out his biggest competitor.
Folks like Mark Zuckerberg know that where the competition is going to come from and how it's going to threaten their business.
It just gobbled up one of its main up-and-coming competitors, and that was a big deal for them.
It is the next Facebook, and that's really what Facebook is doing. They are trying to buy the next Facebook.
By 2014, there were over 500 million users on WhatsApp, and the platform was adding over
1 million new users each day.
However, there was one problem. Since Facebook was also acquiring Instagram around the same time, they were afraid that the deal wouldn't make it past Europe's anti-monopoly checks. But when the time came, Zuckerberg and Facebook were able to convince the officials by saying that Facebook will never get access to WhatsApp's data. Plus, Zuckerberg had also assured the founders that he will respect their values and use their vision of WhatsApp for the future. However, he always left the details vague. Little did they know at the time that those were all empty promises. You see, WhatsApp has the users, and millions of new users kept joining the platform every single day. Facebook was aware of the data mining capability that WhatsApp will be capable of in the future, so they managed to convince the founders and the European Commission. From there on, it wouldn't take long for the deal to successfully go through. At the time, it was the largest acquisition of a venture capital-backed company in history. In the following years, both the founders and the European Commissions will come to regret their decisions massively. But at the time, everything seemed perfect, and Facebook was going to exploit this lapse of judgment to the fullest. By early 2015, WhatsApp had grown to over 700 million users with over 30 billion messages sent every day. On the 18th of January 2016, Yan announced that WhatsApp will no longer charge users a $1 annual subscription fee. This was done in an effort to remove a barrier faced by users without payment cards. He also assured users that the app will not display any third-party ads. Now that Facebook had removed the annual subscription fee and had promised not to display any third-party ads on the platform, which is still true to this day for the messaging app, this then begs the question, how does WhatsApp make money? The answer is, WhatsApp makes money through its incredibly unique ability to farm user data. With over 100 billion messages sent every day and access to users' entire contact lists, Meta now has access to a ton of personal information. This sheer volume of data held within the app serves as a gold mine for Meta's advertising platforms. But they couldn't just roll out and start mining data from WhatsApp just yet, as they have to uphold to their agreement with the founders for at least a little while, since Facebook had promised the founders that it will not run ads or use the app for data mining of any sort. But within the year, Facebook was already chipping away at the founders' ability to uphold their ideals. And soon afterwards, Facebook brought the first targeted advertisements to WhatsApp. It was snuck into a new status feature despite major pushbacks from the founders. Of course, this was later removed. But next, Zuckerberg moved to dismantling WhatsApp's famous end-to-end encryption, which was the major selling point and one of the main reasons why people trusted the app in the first place. This means that now Facebook has access to what was once the encrypted personal data of hundreds of millions of people that was not even known to WhatsApp itself. And to be fair, the founders did try to fight back for their part. They even came up with a new plan why users will only get access to a certain amount of free messages and pay for messages over the excess. But this was eventually shut down because it just didn't materialize as much as data mining and advertisement. And so in 2016, just 2 years after they sold the company, Facebook announced that they will fully integrate WhatsApp into their data machine. This was the last draw for Yan and Brian, as it had barely been 2 years since they sold the company, and now WhatsApp is already being used to harvest people's personal data. They thought all of their original core values had been violated, since they have a clause in their contract in which Facebook promised that these sort of monetization tactics will not be allowed on the platform. They thought that Facebook had clearly broken these agreements, so they brought it up in negotiations. But you see, Facebook had a loophole. Since they had only been exploring monetization rather than implementing it on a wide scale, it simply didn't count. Plus, Zuckerberg had another trick up his sleeve. Hidden in the contract was a clause that says the founders will lose tons of money if they back out of the company early. However, this just didn't matter to Yan and Brian at the time, as they were so displeased with Facebook's actions and the directions it was heading. And so now, with Facebook still implementing more business tools and more data collection, it all just became too much for the founders to bear. So they made their plans to leave the company early anyway. This caused them to lose close to $1 billion in the process. Brian went on ahead to start a new messaging app by the name Signal, which is set to rival WhatsApp. Yan also left the company 6 months later after an argument with Facebook over data privacy abuse. Now that both founders are out of the picture, Facebook was now free to move along without any interruptions or oppositions to start harvesting user data from WhatsApp and feed them into Meta's advertising platforms. The very same thing which they told the European Commission was impossible. And of course, the European Commission weren't going to overlook this. So they fined Facebook 110 million euros for providing misleading information about WhatsApp's takeover back in 2014. Because back then, when Facebook acquired the messaging app, it falsely claimed that it was technically impossible to automatically combine user information from WhatsApp to Facebook. However, investigations showed that WhatsApp had already begun sharing user information with its parent company since the summer of 2016. Facebook acknowledged the breach, but said the errors in their 2014 filings were not intentional. But at this point, this was the least of problems on Facebook's hands, because in 2018, Facebook's data harvesting secrets were revealed to the world in the
Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Cambridge Analytica gained access to the data of 87 million users.
For years, Facebook gave some of the world's largest technology companies more intrusive access to users' personal data than it has disclosed.
Those private Facebook messages you sent where you shared intimate details about your life with your old friend? Well, Facebook let people from Netflix have access to them.
Facebook failed to protect the information of millions of its users.
If you've ever shared your phone number or address on your page, Amazon might have accessed that.
A former Cambridge Analytica research director sounded the alarm on the harvesting of information from millions of Facebook users without their permission.
When all of this came out, I then got banned.
They had told us that they weren't using the data and had deleted it. We considered it a closed case. In retrospect, that was clearly a mistake. This was a major breach of trust, and I'm really sorry that this happened.
Data of 87 million people had been used in psychological profiling systems, and these had been used to prey on people's weaknesses to targeted advertisements and political campaigns. This even prompted Brian to send that tweet that sent shockwaves through the social media landscape, which said, "It is time, delete Facebook." This was just months after he had thanked them for his journey. He felt guilty about what had happened. He said, and I quote, "I sold my users' privacy to a larger benefit. I made a choice and a compromise, and I live with that every day." But to Facebook, these were all just bumps on the road. Now you think they'll be more careful by now, but then again, a few months later, data of another
500 million WhatsApp users. The data is allegedly available for sale on the dark web.
This even led the FTC to issue them a $5 billion fine in July of 2021. Facebook had already tested their plans to implement business analytic tools to WhatsApp from as early as 2017, and they are now ready to roll this out to the public. Sure, on the surface, it looked like a legitimate way that Facebook can monetize its platform. Businesses can let people place orders and ask questions, and WhatsApp will make money by charging for the service. But this is only partially true. The hidden details was that this gives access for Facebook to update their privacy policy for WhatsApp. And hidden in the fine print was the fact that this gives Facebook access to much more people's personal data. In January of 2021, WhatsApp announced an update to their privacy policy, which stated that WhatsApp will share user data with Facebook and its family of companies. Beginning February of 2021, previously users could opt out of such data sharing, but the new policy removed this option.
There are two screens with a big accept button. There is no option to reject.
However, the new privacy policy will not apply within the European Union, as it is illegal under the GDPR. Now, before you think I'm completely against data mining and advertisements, let me clarify. Data mining helps social media companies understand us better. It's how they deliver personalized contents, recommendations, and ads that match our interests and needs. And honestly, without data mining and advertisements, all these free social media platforms will not exist. But here's the catch. Our personal information needs protection. If it lands in the wrong hands, the consequences could be serious and long-lasting. So while we benefit from tailored experiences online, let's also stay vigilant about our privacy. It's all about striking that balance between personalization and security. After the implementation of the controversial privacy changes, advertisement revenues jumped to its highest ever. Facebook across all their platforms made nearly $115 billion in 2021 alone. And all of this was possible because WhatsApp gave Facebook access to hundreds of millions of people's data. Though it wasn't obvious on the surface, WhatsApp was easily worth the $19 billion that was paid for it from the start. Even while banned in China, the most populous country on the planet, WhatsApp is still the most downloaded messaging app in the world, with nearly 3 billion users.